Exhumation of dead bodies plays an important role in medical legal practice. As per the learning outcomes, you should be able to define the term and also what are the indications for an exhumation and also who orders it and the basic procedure to be followed. What do you mean by an exhumation? It is actually a legal process. If I tell it very simply, imagine a situation where a dead body is already buried, but for certain valid reason or reasons, the dead body should be taken out from the ground again. So now this process is termed as exhumation. So exhumation refers to a legal process of removing the remains of a deceased person from their burial site based on legal requirements such as that means by taking the dead body out and performing the second autopsy, there should be certain important evidence to be surfaced. Now you can understand by doing the examination after taking the body out, now we can collect many evidence that are important to tell about the cause of death, manner of death or anything. However, in addition to the criminal purposes, there may be certain civil purposes as well in performing exhumation. Example, relocation of a cemetery or town expansion. So in these situations also we have to exhume the dead bodies. What's the legal provision and who authorizes it? The order can only be given by the magistrate and never by an ISD. Now you have to understand it is always by a magistrate. The authority is under the section 373, section 2 of the Code of Criminal Procedure Act number 15, 1979. So now you have to understand that this is a procedure actually, all right. So this is a procedure, legal process. So as a result, it is mentioned in the Code of Criminal Procedure. It's not mentioned in the Penal Code. So we are going to ask it in a confusing manner. In which book it is stated? The law of exhumation likewise. So now it is mentioned in the Code of Criminal Procedure Code. What are the circumstances? It could be due to criminal reasons. Body has been buried without a proper inquiry and a proper post-mortem examination, or the inquest findings are wrong, or the post-mortem findings are not adequate. The post-mortem examination conducted by the medical officer is incomplete or inadequate. Now you can understand also about illegal disposal after a criminal act. So that means surreptitiously a dead body had been buried. So now in these situations we have to take the body out and we have to do the proper medical legal examination. What are the civil reasons? Identification of an unidentified person or burial ground to be used for other purposes such as town expansion. You can understand properly, right? What's the procedure now? As I have mentioned earlier, it should possess of a written order from a magistrate of the area. And then we have to take a detailed history, reasons for exhumation. As the JMO, you have to collect as many information as to tell or to get clear idea about the purpose of examination. As exhumation is a team effort, you have to get ready of the team. This should include medical officer, scientific officer, photographer, a few laborers, and sometimes maybe odontologist, all right. So depending on the situation, you have to get ready with the team. The place should be secured during the previous night or from the point of determination of exhumation. So that means otherwise unnecessary people will come and take the body out on their own and they will destroy the place or evidence. Exhumations are best done in the morning because of the sunlight, the procedure will be very difficult. So it's it is conventional to start the procedure as early as possible. On reaching the place, note the time of your arrival and the team members' names and everything. You have to have clear notes with you. And also, you have to have additional members of the process, maybe the name of the magistrate and everything you have to have there. And also, there may be certain other important people such as Grama Seva Niladhari or the relatives of the deceased and etc. You also have to take down all the notes of the participants as well. And then you have to identify the grave. Usually, it will be done by the relatives and also by the police officers by appreciating fixed objects, maybe in relation to a tree, likewise. And then we have to take all the sketches, photographs and videoing of the site, and then now you are going to start the digging. Digging actually should be started with heavy weapons such as machetes and shovels as well. But when the coffin is reached, the digging should be very subtle and should be done very carefully. And you also have to take 7 soil samples. I will be explaining it later. And then finally, with an adequate digging, you have to put coir ropes beneath the coffin, and then you are going to lift the coffin very carefully. We have photographs later. And then we tell to the undertakers and relatives to identify the coffin. Otherwise, we are going to take out another coffin and somebody will accuse us. Now, coffin is going to be opened and the body should be identified by the undertakers with clothing and also by the relatives as well. Later on, we are going to close the dead body with wrappings and all, and then seal the coffin again, and we hand over the dead body to the police officer in charge to safely transport the dead body to the mortuary under the supervision of the consultant JMO while maintaining the chain of custody. Next important aspect is to do the post-mortem examination. This dead body could be a surreptitiously disposed dead body. So that means no post-mortem was done. However, this could be the second post-mortem as well. As a result, now this is very difficult to interpret about the post-mortem findings with putrefactive changes. There may be embalming artifacts. As you can understand, there may be certain artifacts that could occur due to the surfacing of the dead body during the exhumation. You can understand many post-mortem artifacts should be there. As a result, never ever a junior doctor should perform the post-mortem on an exhumed dead body. And also, it's your duty to get down the first post-mortem report and also have to follow this report, because now by the time now the dead body may be in a very advanced stage of putrefaction, and also to appreciate first incisions and all right. Otherwise, you are going to interpret post-mortem incisions that was performed during the first post-mortem as injuries. You can understand it. However, finally, the completed report should be hand over to the person who provided the order, that means the area magistrate. What are the challenges? Decomposition of remains. It usually adds lots of post-mortem artifacts, and also loss or destruction of antemortem evidence as well. Now, if there were cut injuries, by the time now the edges are putrefied, so now you can't tell exactly whether this injury is a cut or a laceration. And also identification difficulties, damaging during excavation, adding post-mortem artifacts, maintaining the chain of custody. There may be certain problems, and environmental contamination such as heavy metals and other substances, maybe passive accumulation of dead body. If you are going to have other chemical analysis on clothing and everything, it will present as false positive findings, but actually speaking, these are environmental contamination. And also coffin material degradation, family and public sensitivity, and also certain logistic constraints as well. Let's have a pictorial description now. Now, as you can understand, there are certain other dead bodies as well in this burial place. However, when it comes to this place, now we have to first of all identify the proper burial place in relation to fixed objects such as trees, maybe a lamp post. All right, so now relatives will identify the place, or sometimes police. All right, now proper identification has been performed. And the next step is you have to sketch, measure and everything, photographs and everything. And then you have to start digging it by using usually heavy instruments, otherwise it will take so many time to get surface the coffin down. Right, so now after that, right, so now as you can see here, you can use machetes, shovels and everything. And also it's important to collect samples from the places. As you can understand now, there are lots of sealed bottles here, right? So now the coffin is a rectangular item or object. Now you can see it has got 6 aspects, so you can take soil samples or could be water samples sometimes from 6 sides, right? So top and bottom and also 4 sides, altogether 6. And also you have to take a control sample to somewhat away from the burial site to compare about false positive results in case of heavy metals absorbed from the water to the body or the clothing and etc. So you can understand about that part very well now. So at least 7 samples you have to collect. Now as I have described earlier, when you can see the coffin, you have to start very careful digging by using soft instruments or tools. And then people will have coir ropes beneath the coffin, and they are going to lift the coffin very carefully. After that, after taking to the surface, now relatives and the funeral directors have to identify the coffin and also have to identify the person inside as well, as we have described earlier. Right, so now we are going to discuss about a few MCQs which are true or false in type. Right, the authority is valid from an ISD. No, it's not. As you can understand, it's always incorrect to get the authority from the ISD. It's always should be the area magistrate. Exhumations are performed only for criminal purposes. Not at all. Yes, the majority of cases it will be done for criminal purposes, to surface any other evidence, or the post-mortem had not been done properly, so likewise. However, now when a mayor wants to expand the town and etc., right, so you can have exhumations in civil with civil purposes as well. So this is incorrect. Exhumation is useless of doing in all dead bodies. Definitely incorrect, right? So now how much the dead body is old, it's immaterial. You have to do the exhumation because there are evidence. At least sometimes you can exclude certain things, maybe firearm injuries, right? So with no bone injuries and nothing, an eyewitness, a so-called eyewitness will tell, now I saw the person was shot dead onto his head like, but while you exhume the dead body, nothing was there. So now you can by having a look of even bones, right, so you can exclude many things, right? A control soil sample is optional. It's incorrect again, right? So now you have to take a control sample definitely. So this is incorrect. Heavy instruments are used until the very end of the exhumation process. You know the reason. No, it's incorrect. Once the coffin is visible, you have to use smooth tools, right? Exhumations are performed in starting are preferred in starting of an evening. No, it's usually has to be done in the morning hours because of the severe sunlight, right? So this is incorrect again, right? The proper identification of the grave site is essential. Yes, definitely, otherwise we will be charged exhumation of wrong dead body. Exhumations are allowed to perform by a junior doctor. No, not at all, not even the exhumation process. And also the post-mortem should be done by a very qualified person, ideally a consultant JMO, right? Post-mortem artifacts are in the forms of embalming process, putrefaction due to the first post-mortems, etc. Yes, you can understand it, right? So now it's very correct. After the exhumation of the dead body, an autopsy examination is essential. Definitely true. That's why we take the body out, to have more detailed examination. Yes, we have to do the post-mortem examination. So two things, right? So taking the body out and then to do the post-mortem examination. In illegally buried dead bodies, after exhumation, the first post-mortem examination is performed, right? So illegally buried means there is no way in doing a post-mortem examination. So obviously, this is the first time that we are going to do the post-mortem examination. Now imagine if a dead body who where the post-mortem examination had already performed and the dead body was buried, and now later on they are going to decide to exhume the dead body. Now this is the second post-mortem. All right, right. It is useless to examine a putrefied dead body as the soft tissues are destroyed. It is definitely incorrect, right? So now though soft tissues may be putrefied, there may be so many other evidences as well. So in this case, this is incorrect. Samples are collected for histology and toxicology, right? This is correct. Sometimes it is mentioned that in case of embalmed dead bodies, it's useless taking toxicological samples because they are going to add chemicals. But for your level, yes, histologically, toxicologically, or anything, right? So we have to take adequate samples. The JMO who performed the second autopsy is entitled to look at the first report, images taken at the scene, images and etc. Yes, definitely. He has to have a look, otherwise he is going to interpret the first post-mortem incision as an antemortem injury and so on. Right. So thank you very much.